So as we mentioned in our overview for this section, we're focusing in this next series of videos on that link between the distributor and the consumer. And we define the cost, what the distributor pays from the producer for a piece of goods, is the cost. Of course, it's the cost to the distributor. Then as the distributor sells to the consumer, the price paid by the consumer is the selling price. The price that the distributor sells to the consumer. So we're focusing on from the distributor's viewpoint here. And of course, the difference in between there, because you're not going to sell it for the same price you bought it, is going to add a markup. So that gives us a general formula that our cost plus a markup is equal to a selling price. And this general formula governs 90% of what we're going to do in this next section. So each of these numbers, when we're dealing with problems like this, these markups are based on percents, is going to be described by two different numbers. One is a percent, and the other side, since we're dealing with money, is going to be dollars. So in every problem we look at, the cost is going to be described by both a percent and a dollar amount. Markup is going to be described by a percent and a dollar amount, and the same for selling price, a percent and a dollar amount. There are two different kinds of markup. Markup based on cost. That's the one we're going to be focusing on in this section. And then there's a markup based on selling price. That'll be the subject of our next video. So for markup based on cost, usually phrased as simply markup on cost. What that means is in our table here, all of our percents, oops, different color. All the percents are based on the cost being equal to 100%, or the full amount. So as we look at this table we had, cost, I'm going to use MU to abbreviate markup. So cost plus markup equals selling price. I'm going to use just SP to abbreviate selling price. Percents on one side and dollars on the other. The cost is going to represent 100%, and everything else is going to be calculated off of there. So let's look at an example that we will fill into this table here. So our example, so we're going to do several examples, but our first example is we're going to have a cost of $120. And our markup is listed as a 40% markup on cost. And we're going to be asked to find our selling price. Now, along with that, I'm also going to ask us to find the dollar amount of the markup. So the dollar markup is the dollar amount. So those are the two things I'm going to find here. So there's two pieces of information given here that are going to go along with what I already have. The first piece is that the cost is $120. So on the dollar side of the cost, I put in the $120. 40% markup on cost. Now there's actually two pieces of information in that statement. 40% markup means that 40% goes on the percent side for the markup. The on cost is just verifying that 100% should have gone with the cost. Now that's all the information we're given. Like I said, that 100% is hidden in that statement. But now there's another piece that we can calculate rather quickly. We can find the percent here for the selling price, Because on both sides of this, our equation has to hold true. Cost plus markup has to equal selling price. So 100% plus 40% is 140%. So our selling price represents 140% of our base. Now to find these numbers here, the selling price and the dollar markup, I can find either one of them first. I'm going to go ahead, since I asked for the selling price first, I'm going to find that first. Working with this table, this is actually a proportion within the table. I can pull out my information. I need the row that has both numbers, both the percent and the dollar amount. Here, that's the cost. So I'll pull that out, 100 and 120. Notice what I did is I just put those numbers on the top of the two ratios of a proportion. And then I need the row that has what we're looking for. In this case, that's the selling price row down here. So the 140 is under the 100, so I put 140 under the 100. This blank, the amount we're looking for, is under the 120, so I leave that blank under the 120. And we'll go ahead and cross multiply and divide like we have with other percents. So 120 times 140 divided by 100. Should give us $168. Is our selling price. That's the selling price. Now to find the dollar markup at this point, we have two ways we can approach it. The easy way is simply going to be to subtract. We know that 120 plus that markup has to equal 168. So we could work backwards. 168 minus 120 gives us a $48 markup. But I want to use this table, these proportions. So now I still have both numbers for the cost, but what I'm looking for is the dollar markup. So it's that row. So I still have the 100% and the $120 for the cost. Again, I put them up above. The 40% goes under the 100, so 40 goes down there, and the blank is still under the 120. And we can cross multiply and divide here. 40 times 120 divided by 100. That's going to come out to be $48. So we get a $48 markup. One thing you might notice here is actually if we ignore this bottom row here, this table actually is a proportion. Here's my ratio on each side. I have 100 over 40, and on the right side I have 120 over 48. If I think of this as just being a big equal sign in the middle here, that's a proportion. And I can simply cross multiply and divide right within that. 40 times 120, and then divide by the 100, would have given me the 48. So and that's what we're going to do from now on, is we're just going to work right within that table, cross multiply and divide. So we're going to have to show you a few more examples to look at all the different possibilities here. So again, we're going to look at an example where we're told that we have a cost of $150. A selling price, abbreviated SP, of $240. And I'm going to ask you to find the percent markup on cost. So once again, I make that table. Cost plus markup is equal to our selling price. And as always, the percent is going to go on the left side, and we're going to put dollars on the right side. We have $150 for the cost. That's the dollar amount of the cost. $240 is the dollar amount of the selling price. Now, it looks like we don't have any other information, but we do. First of all, we're looking for the percent markup. That's the number we're searching for. But it's percent markup on cost. That fact that it states on cost, once again, affirms to us that 100% goes with the cost. So we are looking for that percent markup on cost. We have a row where we have both numbers, the cost. Markup is the row that we're looking for. We're looking for the percent markup, but in order to be able to find that percent markup, we must have the number on the other side over here. Right now we don't, but we can find it because cost plus markup equals selling price. 150 plus whatever that dollar markup is has to equal 240. So we can work backwards. 240 minus 150 gives us that markup must be $90. Now that we have that, we can see that we have both lines that we need for our proportion. I'm going to draw in my proportion here. This is my 1 ratio on each side. This is treated as my equal sign. I don't need this bottom row. And I'm going to cross multiply. 100 times 90. Then I'm going to divide by the 150. Should give us $60 or 60%. So the percent markup on cost is 60%. So as long as we're given the cost, these are relatively straightforward. It can be a little trickier when we're given the other side of it. We might be given that the dollar amount of the markup is $160. And we might be told that this is a 32% markup on cost. So as we make our table, cost plus markup equals selling price. We have percents on one side and dollars on the other still. We are given $160 as the dollar amount of the markup. 32% markup, so 32% goes there. And it's markup on cost, again, that affirms the 100% goes in the cost. In this problem, I want you to find the cost. So finding the cost, you can see everything is right there. This is the row where we have both the percent and the dollar amount. That's the markup. This is the row that has what we're looking for, and we do have the number on the other side. We have that 100 there. So we can go ahead and treat that as a proportion. And we'll cross multiply and divide right within that table. So 100 times 160 divided by 32. It's going to give us $500. So that's a cost of $500. We can have similar problems to that, where we might be given a dollar markup of $100, and given that it is a 40% markup on cost, and be asked to find the selling price. So again, our table is going to start out exactly the same. Cost plus markup equals selling price. So once again, we're given a dollar markup. That's the $100 on the dollar side of the markup. We're given the percent markup, 40% markup. So 40% goes on the percent side of the markup. Once again, on cost confirms that the 100% goes with the cost. We're asked to find the selling price, so the dollar amount of the selling price. In order to find that amount, we have to have the number on the other side of our table. Well, here, fortunately, that's really quick to find because cost plus markup equals selling price. 100% plus 40% has to equal 140%. So now, markup is the row where we have both the percent and the dollar amount. Selling price is the row that has what we're looking for, the dollar selling price, and we do have that number on the other side. So there's our proportion right there in our table. And we will cross multiply and divide. 140 times 100 divided by the 40. Should give us $350 is our selling price. we can run into problems where we are told we are given a selling price of $325, and we have a percent markup on cost of 30%, and we're asked to find the cost. So this one seems to be working backwards, and it kind of is, but it's going to be the exact same process. Cost plus markup equals selling price. Notice this table has not changed yet. Percents and dollars. We have $325 is our selling price. So that goes on the dollar side of the selling price. 30% markup, that's the percent on the markups, the markup on the percent side. On cost confirms 100% is with the cost. Now again, we have the 325 over here. We should have the number on the other side. That's going to be here. 100 plus 30 is 130%. We're asked to find the cost, which is right there. So for this one, the selling price is the row where we have both the percent and the dollar amount. The cost is the row that has what we're looking for, and we do have the number on the other side. So now for this one, we do not need this middle row. So we set up our proportion is 100 over 130 equals blank over 325, and we'll cross multiply and divide again. 100 times 325 divided by 130 gives us $250. So that's a cost of $250. One final example, one final variation that I want to make sure we have down is I might tell you that our selling price don't know why I didn't abbreviate that, but that's okay, is $672. We have a dollar markup of $112. I'm going to ask you to find the percent markup on cost. So again, we still have our cost plus markup equals our selling price. So percent in dollars. We have $672 as the selling price. $112 is the dollar markup. Now, it looks like that's not all. That's all the information we have, but we still have that we're looking for the percent markup on cost. Even though that's what we're looking for, the fact that it's based on cost still affirms that the 100% goes in the cost. Nothing else we can do on the percent side. In fact, what we're looking for is the percent of the markup. So that's the row that we need, is that percent markup. Now, we either need to find the other number here so that we have both numbers for the selling price. Really don't see any good way to find that percent at this point. Or we need to find the other number here so we have both numbers for the cost. That number we can find rather quickly because we have the other two on the dollar side of our table. So all we're going to do is just subtract here, working backwards, 672 minus 112, oops, 672 minus 112, which is going to be $560. So we have a cost of $560. So now we don't need that bottom row anymore. We're looking at our proportion here is 100 over blank equals 560 over 112, and we will cross multiply and divide. 100 times 112 divided by 560 . will give us 20. So that is a 20% markup on cost. So that is the basics of dealing with a markup based on cost. Next section, we'll look at markups based on selling price.